It's Trevor.
Yeah, we've got a cat helping us too.
Oh, I love your barn cats. They're so good.
How are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm in the cellar because outside, I guess my computer, it was plugged in, but it still doesn't have very good battery. So in the freezing cold cellar.
Well, we're outside and it suddenly got
Yeah.
cold. We thought it'd be kind of nice and it just got colder out here, but we're outside because Lyndon's asleep inside and we don't want to wake him up.
Yeah. Oh, good idea.
And I have a tendency to yell, so.
Yeah. Good. We're passionate. For the recording's sake, I should just say that's Whitney Hopkins and that's Bob Hopkins, father and daughter.
In the picture.
Yeah. And Whitney, I thought maybe you could just tell us like how many acres you guys have, how long you guys have been farming, and just a little blurb, blurb.
Well, let's see. We have been farming since the 1950s when my grandparents bought the farm, but at the time it was planted to prunes, and then they also grew string beans because it was just the end of the hop era in the Russian River Valley. And so they were able to use the hop trellising to grow string beans. And they were also growing corn. And then from there, I think some more prune trees were planted, and as well as pear trees. So I think we were just growing prunes and pears for a period up until the 1970s. And I don't know exactly what year it would be that you planted the first.
We planted
around 1976.
75, okay, I think.
75.
76, 75. We planted actually
on Star Road.
On Star Road.
I'll butt in here for a sec because that's when Doug got involved. I don't know when Doug and Lee were married, but it was.
They just celebrated. I think it was their 47th wedding anniversary.
So that would make it 75.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay, because Doug and I had been talking, and I was going to plant Gewürztraminer on this block on Star Road, and Doug came over and looked at the site. We walked around and he said, you might want to think about Sauvignon Blanc here because sort of a lot of people are getting interested in that now. So we ended up selling the Gewürztraminer vines and getting some rootstock and getting cuttings from Lou Preston. And we planted 5 acres of Sauvignon Blanc there, which we never sold that fruit to Nalle. That went to Matanzas Creek for 25 years.
Nice.
But subsequently we planted another block of Sauvignon Blanc, at which point, that was after Doug started buying Pinot Noir. He decided he wanted to experiment a little bit with Sauvignon Blanc. And so at any rate, that was, I guess that was sort of my first viticultural interaction with Doug. And it was a great choice. I mean, it's still, we actually just pulled those vines out last year.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
And people still, there's some winemakers that still love that fruit, but the production had gotten so low.
Yeah.
And some other issues. But we're replanting with Sauvignon Blanc again on the same site.
Nice.
And I'm confident that we'll be able to continue, selling to probably the same people that are buying it.
Yeah.
But nice. No Gewürztraminer, unfortunately.
Yeah, I know. And that's one of those things where it's like everything kind of comes in circles, but you got to make a decision at some point.
Yeah. So you were asking about the acreage, and right now we have a lot taken out, but I think, we at maximum capacity it could be close to 80. But right, but at the moment we have more like 50.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I know, it's funny how that all happens. I'm like, oh, wait a second, hold on.
Yeah.
But we're working on some replanting plans. We have some more to do this year. So
yeah, definitely. We're doing a little bit of replanting.
Well, well, we did a little thing called research, trying to figure out when we actually planted those vines, and it's
Yeah.
somewhat lost in the depths of obscurity. But it was planted at the same time as some of the Meunier, and the last big order of Meunier I found was 1989. So I'm going to say 89.
Okay.
But
Yeah. Is that when you remember the relationship with Hopkins Knoll first starting?
the fruit was in production for a couple of years before Doug sort of started getting feeling like he wanted something else from Zinfandel. So I think we sold
Yeah.
it to some home winemakers for the first couple of years when it was really, I mean, it's always been small production, but it was particularly small. I don't know. Have you looked to see what the first vintage was that?
Um, I couldn't, it's all, everything we have is written on paper from way back then. And it's all in these like massive filing cabinets or boxes. So I can't really find anything.
That was
Sounds
our
familiar.
problem. We just were going through all of our nursery files. So I think, oh, well, I'll look and see, I'm sure it'll show up in a nursery file. And I'm actually not 100% sure on that 1989 date, because my recollection is that block was planted with rootstock and then field budded, which doesn't jibe with the receipt. So we just realized we need to just spend some time and go through all those nursery records and cull out the stuff that's no longer relevant, but also to use them to reassemble.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing slowly. I started on one Riesling file and it took me like 2 hours. So I'm like, this is going to take days and months. But
Yeah, I still have a bottle of Knoll, the Riesling from the Mendocino.
oh, nice.
It might warrant opening one of these days. Might be a pleasant surprise. Might be
Yes.
brown,
Yes, yeah, I know. Maybe Doug would probably love to be involved in that one because I'm not even sure. I'm sure he has one or two, but those are very rare bottles. So anyway, so we're talking about the Pinot, right?
Yeah.
So that's what Doug started buying from.
We started buying Pinot, and all we had were 4 rows of Pinot Noir at the time, because they hadn't planted any of the other vines. And so I'm guessing it must have been around 93 or so, 93,
Okay.
94 maybe, that we sold the first to Knoll, and we just went along for a few years, and then he decided he really liked the fruit, and we had by then we had planted that other block across the road, and Doug asked if we would consider grafting over a few rows to more of the Swan clone. So we did that. We grafted over some of the 115 to Swan, and so I don't know. Then the rest,
but the rest is history.
History and
that we're trying to record.
Yeah, we're trying to.
So that brings me to another thing. Somebody was in here and they were telling me, a customer, and they're like, well, is it Swan selection or is it actually the Swan clone? Like, did you guys, was it certified Swan clone or did it come?
Well, it's as Swanish as you can get, I guess. Yeah. I had a friend named Don Baumhefner, who might actually help me remember some of this if I talk to him, who was working for Joe Swan at the time. I actually used to do some work for Joe. I used to sulfurous grapes on occasion. And so Don kept bugging me to plant some Pinot Noir. And when we were budding this field of Meunier, I finally said, okay, we'll put in some Pinot if you'll get me some budwood from Swan. So he went and selected from the rows that he thought were Joe's favorite rows. And Joe Swan had many different clones planted. And so these were just cuttings from Joe Swan's vineyard, which and God only knows what what the origins of, like, he had suitcase clones,
Yeah.
France, and so so that was why we ended up just grafting these 4 rows, just figuring, oh well, what the hell, we'll do something with it.
Right. So yeah, I mean, it's as close to the source as you can possibly get.
Yeah.
It's such those 4 rows are so, the fruit that is produced is perfect for the Nalle style. I mean, it literally is. So that's why I'm like, for how many years we've been working together, it just goes hand in hand, because our style has moderate alcohol, bright acidity, layered flavor, and those grapes just keep producing that year after year. I mean, that's probably your farming too.
Yeah, we sold those grapes one year to Rocchioli, because they had I think a frost damage or something. They had 0 crop, and so it must have been before we started selling to Doug. But so we sold it to Rocchioli, and I remember asking at the time if they had any Swan clone in their vineyard, and Tom said, yeah, but we feel it's really too light for us.
Okay.
So that, I mean, that goes along with your comments about the Nalle style.
It really is, and it still holds true to today.
So I mean, it's one of the things that we've talked about doing, and we have yet to do, is to try to do virus testing on some of those vines to see if we can find a couple that are virus free, which has increasingly become
right.
So there's a lot of virus, and there are some in the tea-budded vines, the younger vines. For a while, Andrew was kind of we'd really rather not have the last 20 vines in each row, because the virus is getting really sort of dominant in there. And that we did see that. I think it's one of those AXR. The good news about AXR is it's pretty virus tolerant. So you can have some virus on AXR and it doesn't really exhibit symptoms. But when we grafted those over to it's 3309, I think, some symptoms started showing up, and then we're not sure. I haven't really noticed a lot of red blotch symptoms in the younger vines, but we're seeing it in other Pinot Noir on the place, and it's becoming more of an issue. But again, if you're not trying to get the fruit to 26 bricks and make it look like it's Syrah, that may not be an issue. We heard some positive comments from when Duckhorn was buying the other big block. The guy who was their grower rep and vineyard manager at the time was saying they were still producing some really good wines from their own vineyards with red blotch. So
I know. I mean, I think some people say it actually sometimes can add to quality, I guess, depending on where you're at in the whole process.
Right. I mean, it's kind of one of the those old vines versus young vines, and the whole, because back in the 70s, a lot of vines had virus that maybe we didn't even know about, and it did slow down the ripening, but maybe that wasn't all bad.
Right, totally. You guys farm organically, basically, right? You're not certified, but you farm organically.
We do, and it's only been for a couple of years, and it.
I mean, we've been going that direction for a while, especially after Emmett got certified organic for when he was doing the CSA and growing vegetables, and so that kind of helped to propel, I think.
And we started farming the blocks that were next to his vineyard, to his vegetables, organically.
Oh yeah, that makes sense.
And it, the last couple of years have actually been pretty easy years from the mildew and bunch rot point of view. I mean, one nice thing you can say about a drought is that
that's true. I like it. Positive.
But but the last 2 years we've been 100% organic. And prior to that, on the Pinot Noir we've done, Pinot Noir is actually fairly easy. It's not as prone to mildew as Chardonnay.
Yeah,
for instance.
yeah,
So
yeah.
it's easier to handle. But we're, you know, we've you look at our you know, we've eliminated. We don't use any herbicides, and we have the weeds to prove it.
Yeah, that's okay.
We're just actually looking at our neighbor. Our neighbors uses another tool, not one that we have, and it's working pretty well for under the vine.
Oh, under the vine weeding, like manual mechanized weeding.
Yeah, they use a Clemens, which I know a lot of people use. The Hollies, or not Hollies, Hafners use a Clemens, and on these, you know, Russian River soils, they work pretty well.
Yeah. Oh, nice. That's good to know. Yeah. Yeah.
We have a mower, a new mower.
So under the vine
that
mower,
we got
which
last
also
year.
works,
That's also pretty good.
works pretty
Yeah.
well. We're also trying to see if we can reduce our cultivation and, you know, sort of in terms of carbon.
Yeah, and I love it because Whitney and I are in the climate action group, and I feel like the way you guys farm and the way you guys just are as a family, and you've been doing this for generations, it just kind of in your blood to be sustainable farmers. And I think it all goes hand in hand. It doesn't even need necessarily a paper. It's just the way you guys are and the way you farm.
And certainly, you know, even if you're not certified, I mean, any winery that's, I mean, we're required to make available, you know, all of our pesticide reports.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's something that, you know, is quantifiable and reliable. So that's even without certification. And certainly certification is just one more cost that we don't really know at the moment.
Most definitely cost and time. And then when you're a family run operation, I mean, we don't have the infrastructure to have an office.
Have somebody who does that.
Bring everything.
Right.
I was thinking we should ask my dad to go back to his even earlier memories of when he was in school with Lee. Because
I was going to ask that too, because you guys went to high school together.
We went to junior high together. And one year of high school until I got shipped off to boarding school. But I think, you know, I think that I went on my first date was with Lee, going to a kind of, what do you, I mean, like a Sadie Hawkins dance or something, where the
like a barn dance.
Where the girls invite the boys.
Oh, cute.
And I think it was, I mean, because I remember going to a dance with Lee when I was a freshman at Healdsburg High, and, you know, and a real dork. So you can ask Lee about that.
I'll ask her. She has a great memory. She'll probably remember.
Remembers that, yeah. But,
that's so cute. Yeah, we all go back so far. I mean, what's before? So your grandparents,
my parents, Whitney's grandparents.
Yeah, his parents bought the farm in the 1950s.
1954.
Yeah.
Okay. So
they then, when he was a little boy, they lived in that house that's down on the road. Right next to the vineyard. That was there wasn't any house up here on the hill. So
yeah, there probably wasn't very many people out there in general. I mean,
yeah, no, it was it was really old. I mean, I pine for those days sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, just you know, you sort of knew all your neighbors, and there was nobody with a private jet, and
yeah, totally. I mean, that's just similar to us on Dry Creek Road. We have, you know, the old farmhouse has the porch, the deck, or the porch on the front, but it's not even usable because Dry Creek Road is so much traffic, so much dust. It's like an airport freeway, basically. It's kind of sad.
Yeah, they used to herd sheep on East Side Road. When they move them from one pasture to the other, they just
go down East Side.
Take them right down the middle of the road. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, Lee was telling me she remembers when it was, she would, you know, Dry Creek Road looked like all was white with plum blossoms.
Mm-hmm.
just
Prune
driving.
blossoms, prune blossoms.
Mhm.
Oh, prune, yeah, okay, yeah, you're right. Prune.
It's
I've been
like
corrected.
almonds and almonds, you know, if you're part of the in crowd, you call them almonds, you know, that's the, or if you grow them, that's what you call them.
That is true, because when I was in the Central Valley, that's all anyone ever said is almonds. I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I'm out of here. I'm just kidding."
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know, things have changed, but that's what I was gonna ask you guys, you know, where do you see the future going, or with farming?
I don't know. It's actually kind of discouraging right now.
It
And
is.
you know, if this place is functioning at 100% and the market is good, you know, it's okay. But when with to say with our production down now, doing replanting, and even though the market it's good, there's a good grape market. You know, I mean, we all ought to be getting like $5,000 a ton.
Right,
You can't, you know,
yeah, I know,
you can't pay it, and
yeah,
and nobody else can. So it's really hard to see quite how it's going to stay sustainable. You know, I don't know if we're going to go to 100% mechanized everything.
right.
That's another thing that's you know, we have yet to do any machine harvesting on this ranch, and
Oh, never, okay, yeah,
never have. We don't own a harvester, but
yeah,
I look at the Hafners as an example of, well, you make some pretty good wine with machine harvested fruit,
yeah,
but
totally,
for small wineries
It's harder to,
you
yeah.
know, for us
yeah,
to deliver, you know, 3 or 4 tons of Pinot Noir, if it, you know, what are we gonna, you know, half full macro bins with
right,
machine harvested fruit, and then, you know, you guys couldn't do your sorting, you know, that have to,
yeah.
I mean, anyway, so the and you're, you know, there many of the wineries we sell to are small, like Nalle. So,
Yeah,
you know,
Sorry.
the sun is
Yeah.
moving behind us.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of challenges, and even just with trucking, because we're running into the fact that right now in California, there's only one last year of the ag exemption for diesel trucks.
Oh my God.
Unless you operate a very, very low number of miles. And so just things like that, where if, you know, for us to have to replace our trucks would be
It's impossible.
yeah, hard. So
Yeah, and that just, see, I never even thought about that, Bob, how like a small winery like Nalle can only be fed by growers like you, because we don't have, yeah, we're not bringing in hundreds and hundreds of tons. So it's like goes in hand because we can't, yeah, you're
yeah,
right. Nobody's gonna drop off like a few macro bins to a small winery.
that's what we try to,
Yeah.
you know, we're trying to fit into that niche, and we really like, you know, it's like we deliver to a winery in Cloverdale, and we, you know, and if they're pressing Sauvignon Blanc, their press will only hold 3 tons of whole clustered fruit. So that's a
Yeah.
load, and
but
Yeah.
as a result, then it takes multiple
multiple
loads.
trips to,
Yes.
you know.
Oh man. See,
And then if we're having to watch the amount of miles we put into the truck, it makes it tricky. So
yes, it's so, wow, I just had like a light go off, because I never thought of that aspect of it. And you just think the small family wineries and the small producers and growers, the generational one, we're the ones getting squeezed. But
Mhm.
we aren't, there's no other way for us to do it, really.
Right. I mean, that's the,
Yeah.
you know, and I know, I have another small winery who's basically retired now. We don't sell to them anymore, but he tried doing a custom crushing, you know, and when he felt like he couldn't really do a lot of the winemaking procedures anymore, and he just wasn't happy with the results that
Yeah.
he was getting, having somebody else make his wine.
Yeah, I mean, it's so
So-
true. Who can say, I mean, you can, it's very rare that you see, you know, we're out, whenever I go out there, one of you guys is out in the field. And like, probably whenever you're here, you see that Doug and Andrew are actually in the cellar, actually doing the racking, doing the cleaning, doing all that stuff, which I think is a different, obviously it's a different business model than what we're seeing.
Yeah.
More of,
So-
yeah. Whitney, I wonder if you could get grants, just on a side note, for the diesel trucks, you know, like how Steph.
we're trying to research that is also for the tractors. There's a program, but but it's, yeah,
There's
There's
a
a lot
Carl,
of-
it's called the Carl Moyer program, and it's run
Yeah.
through the California Air Resources Board. And so it is, we've got one of those jets going over
Yeah,
here.
I was like, I like
Really
it.
shop and shake my fist at him, but, say something nasty, but
trying
They're
to not
just-
have that sunspot in here. It's tricky.
Oh yeah, I know it's perfect actually, kind of.
yeah, but
Right
but
here.
they but yes, there is some limited funding available, and we're
It's
looking
sort of,
into it.
it's based on each air district in the state of California has their own funds, and some of them are prioritized.
we've kind
That's
of went
part
through the
thing.
PPP
Yeah.
program and some other things this year, and
I have another one that I'm still maybe gonna try to do. I'm talking to someone that's called maybe you've seen it, the Healthy Soils program.
Oh yes, I did see that.
But
Yeah, yeah.
again, and that one, it's frustrating because it's basically gives you money for things that we're already doing.
Yeah, I
but
know.
it's just so much paperwork.
Yeah. I wonder if you could use biofuels in the diesel trucks and have it be exempt.
yeah, I don't know if they give you credit for that, because
Yeah.
it's not a carbon issue. It's all related to particulates and whatnot. And I don't
Oh, yeah.
have any less particulates, and it's the old diesel engines that you know they want you to upgrade.
Yeah. Those are the things we're kind of facing. But as we transition, I guess, into the unknown with farming and everything.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't even brought up the topic of climate change too.
Yes, I know. And I was going to say, that's always on the back of my mind, right?
Mhm.
Because when we think about the future, we've been doing this for generations. I mean, I married into it, but your families, Andrew's family, Doug's family, Lee's family, and I'm just thinking, well, in 30 years, the future actually could look different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
well, we're working on our replanting, although working with 03916 rootstock that we have.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And
And we're also, we're toying with the idea of some other varieties. We have one, William Allen really would like us to plant. He's got all kinds of ideas, and kind of getting away from the
More traditional.
the Chardonnay,
Yeah.
Sauvignon Blanc, Pinot Noir model, and whether, I mean, he's not thinking of Vermentino or something like that, but still, like Gamay.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think that's not a bad idea. Doug planted 4 rows of Nero d'Avola.
Mhm.
Don't know what we're gonna do with it, but it could be a blending component. But
Well,
also the same
That's
thing.
what I think about Gamay, is that
Yeah,
Gamay could turn into Pinot Noir pretty easily.
yeah,
too,
pretty
so,
easily. At least help.
Yeah.
Nice. Hey, we might all have to go back to the beans, actually.
Yeah. Oh, well, we're trying to figure out, we got
or hops,
we
maybe.
got
Yeah, yes.
8 acres of Chardonnay that I just got so disgusted with that we pulled it out.
Yeah, I saw.
Even though it had,
It still produced at
produced,
least 30.
yeah, we got about 4
tons.
tons the acre, but it
So,
was just,
Yeah.
It looked
it was,
terrible.
but it was just half
Yeah.
of the vines had 8 tons per acre and half had none, so
It was
that's
very
not really
spotty.
Yeah.
the direction you want to go.
It
and-
was Pierce's
And if
disease, so-
we grow
Yeah.
pumpkins again this year, but we can't do 8 acres of pumpkins. So Tony thinks we should plant hops.
I
so,
like it. That's
yeah,
pretty
we'll-
cool.
we'll see.
Well, okay, guys, I'm gonna jump off, but I want to say thank you, and I love checking in with you guys. And
Nice
Yeah.
talking to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, ask Lee about that dance at the gym or wherever it was.
that will be so amazing. I'm gonna ask her. I might have to start the blog with that.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, well, you'll inspire me to look. I'll look back when I get a chance in the next day or two for some pictures. So.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thank you guys. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Thanks
Bye-bye.
a lot, April.
Bye. Thanks.